Okay, so good morning to the joint North Devon and Mid Devon District Council Joint Building Control Committee. I'd like to propose that we adjourn temporarily for 15 minutes as we are not quorate at present. If that's okay?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Morning, Nick.
Hello, nice to see you all.
Nick, just so you know, we've only got one North Devon Council member here at the moment, so we're just waiting, hopefully, for Councillor Keeble to turn up, and then we'll be quorate, and then we'll start.
Okay. Yeah,
So
no,
we'll adjourn for 15 minutes and wait for that to happen, hopefully.
no, that's all right. That's okay. Well, I'm here, and apologies, I'm not here in person.
Okay, so it's 10:09 and we are quorate, so I'll reopen the meeting. So I just wanted to say welcome to the councillors, officers and any members of the public to the meeting. Can I ask that if you have mobile phones with you that you turn them on to silent? So I'll just ask as my first duty whether there's any, whether I can have nomination for appointment of chair for 2026-27 from Mid Devon District Council, please.
Councillor Keeble. You said a second.
Second.
Okay, so if you'd like to vote.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll hand over to the chair. Thank you.
In that case, we move to item 2, the appointment of the vice chair, and I move Councillor Prowse. I've got a second. Apologies for those online. I got held up on the A377 with some very slow traffic getting up here to today. Apologies for absence.
Received apology from Councillor Lever.
And I understood that Councillor Locke had given apologies. I spoke to her last night.
I haven't seen that message, but I will note that.
Unfortunately, she has a clashing medical appointment. To approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of January 2026. I've gone through those. I'm happy with those.
Yeah, agree. From the silence and move the adoption.
I'll second those in favour.
Thank you.
On to item 5. Items brought forward. I'm not aware of any items. Are there? Item 6, declarations of interest. No additional declarations of interest. 7, to agree between Part A and Part B. No Part B. So everything's in Part A, and we only have one report this time. The building control business update. Andrew.
Thank you. The first bill to performance, building regulation decisions for the 2-month target set at 95% Q4, with 100% of applications being decided. Examination response times for applications being examined within 3 weeks. The target of 95% has been met, with 99% being achieved. The average time to first response was 18 days with 4 stepping against the target of 10 working days. Our share of completions in the housing sector has increased slightly from Q3 to 17% for the 4th quarter, set against the target of 40%. The partnership's general market share remains strong at 2%. The 4th quarter, given an average for the year, is just over 82%. Total applications at the end of Q4 was for 1,165 compared to the same period last year, when we received 1,178 applications. That was with a mean market share of 81% being recorded. Still under the performance heading, just turning to reversion applications. As reported at the last meeting, the partnership received approximately 40 cancellations from Ascent in November of last year. The partnership team have been collaborating with owners and developers in the process 75% of the contribution, with reversion applications being received. team will continue to collaborate with the remaining owners and developers, encourage them to submit version applications and consider enforcement action if it's deemed necessary. Through our informal enforcement action, the team has captured an additional £30,000 in income from those related applications that we've received so far. So moving on to resources, I'd like to welcome Nick Bryant, who joined in February as the new director of Place and Economy for Mid Devon. Nick replaces Richard Marsh as the senior manager responsible for the oversight of the partnership for Mid Devon. Since the last joint committee meeting, the partnership has been active in the recruitment market as opposite to its vacant Mid Devon principal position, 2 Class 1 inspector positions and a technical support role, which was left vacant due to the previous post holder being successful in applying for one of the 2 vacant Class 1 positions. Given these appointments, at this time the partnership no longer required agency support. However, this does mean the partnership has a high ratio of unqualified, inexperienced inspectors, placing a deep reliance on our 4 senior inspectors to manage the workload as well as provide supervision. With this in mind, market supplements remain in place for the senior North Devon inspector team members, and our part-time senior North Devon inspector has had his hours extended to full-time equivalent for a further 3 months. While discussions will continue with the view to finding a way to make it a permanent arrangement to afford him sufficient time to manage workload or provide adequate supervision for one of the Class 1 inspectors. While the recruitment phase is complete, the rebuilding process will continue. And for hopefully start, we will have 4 Class 1 inspectors who will have to work under close supervision. So with this in mind, we're unlikely to see a significant improvement in initial and first-time responses. And in fact, we might see a slight drop-off in these in the short term, given the supervision. Moving on to delegated authority, with the partnership fully staffed for the first time since the Building Safety Act was introduced, it is in discussions with both legal teams to review and adjust the delegated authority process for issuing enforcement notices. The aim of this exercise is to enable the senior experienced registry inspectors to have the capability to issue enforcement notices themselves in a timely and cost-effective manner. Moving on to working for the Building Safety Regulator. Given our recent recruitment successes, the Building Control Manager will write to Building Safety Regulator to offer our services to work for them on in-scope building of the authorities. With this, within Mid and North Devon, Class 3 work is limited to non-standard construction, high hazard, low-rise buildings and inpatient care portions of the health care premise sector. While there are currently no buildings with a door height above 18 metres in Middle North Devon, the regulator may offer Class 3 effective plan examination and or inspection work in the South West region and plan examination work further afield. The Building Safety Regulator are only likely to offer the partnership this work where in-scope buildings are proposed in other authorities without the Class 3 inspector, or if those authorities are lacking the capacity to check that in-scope work. So moving on to mid-term accreditation portfolio reviews. The mid-term period for current 4-year validation registration cycle is approaching. Building Safety Competency Foundation, which the NDC validation role for 3 year examining inspector extension to be set, finds about to launch a term competency review. But the BSCF will be writing to registered inspectors in the coming months, with the inspectors required to complete the return within 30 days of the request. The inspectors will be required to provide a portfolio of work to demonstrate they have been working on projects within their proven class, and a record of their CPD and training to show they've been keeping up to date with the latest requirements for their proven class. So on the back of that submission, each inspector will receive feedback from their foundation and advice regarding any shortfall in their work profile, CPD or training, that they can either consider revising their class status or seek to build their portfolio to fill the gaps in the remaining 2 years of the cycle. Moving on to Building Safety Regulation Performance Standard reporting. So the partnership continues to capture this data manually and is using overtime to afford staff sufficient time to record the data required. Automated capture remains our ambition, and the partnership intends to allocate a proportion of the new government's funding to appoint a consultant to draft and maintain appropriate reports. Like I said, the regulated KP4 and an annual return has been submitted for each authority last week and well before the stipulated deadline. Moving on to our internal ISO audit. The partnership submitted its draft annual audit return to the LAPC standards team earlier this year and has recently received feedback on the return. The feedback advised and commented, it complemented the partnership on its comprehensive submission, advised us to include a set of audited files for each quarter, and requested a copy of our management review findings with the finalised submission for July. Our management review will take place in the coming weeks now that the budget year has ended. And once the management review is completed, the partnership will share its findings with senior management and also the joint committee. Moving on to new burdens funding. At the time of drafting this report, the partnership had not yet received the long overdue funding. And despite this announcements, MHCLG are now advising there'll be a further update in May. Just as a reminder, Mid Devon are due to receive just under 120,000 and North Devon are due to receive just over 132,000. As previously reported, this funding is essential for the partnership to invest in the following: new software for the safety levy collection, new plugin software to allow automated population of application forms to our back office system, and also to require a consultant to provide automated reports to capture BSR quarterly and annual data as previously discussed. Finally, moving on to the building safety levy update. A little bit of background to this. As previously reported, ministers have determined the levy will now come into effect in the autumn of 2026, and the partnership continues to attend the national and regional levy engagement webinars and respond to surveys with a view to preparing to receive levy declarations, issue liability and exemption notices, collect the levy, issue payment certificates, and report quarterly returns to the government. Under the current proposed scheme, the latest information conveyed by MHCLG is making it difficult to predict the impact processing and collecting the levy will have on the partnership's resources. Under the current proposal, the levy will only apply to developments of more than 9 residential units and 29 student residential units. It was anticipated this proposal would only create a limited amount of additional work for the partnership. However, the government have recently clarified it as their intention to require local authorities to issue exemption certificates for developments that are exempt from the levy. Therefore, developments with 1 to 9 residential units, or 1 to 29 student, or 1 to 28 student resident units will require an exemption certificate issued by the local authority. So as the partnership receives a considerable number of applications for small housing developments, both directly and via initial notices from registered approvals, the burden of processing revenue will increase significantly due to the exemption assessment criteria process. Based on last year's figures, with the exemption certificate requirement, the partnership will have to review processing reports on around 200 housing developments per annum. While the local authority is able to claim this time, and deduct costs from the levy collected, finding that resource from the existing establishment is likely challenging. The partnership may need to consider additional resource to service this new burden. There has been a revised consultation from the government, so the government are now concerned that a considerable portion of the levy collected may end up being exhausted by the administration costs, and as a result, they have raised a further consultation to establish the impact of raising the exemption threshold to 50 residential units, with exemption certificates being issued for 45 to 49 units. Should this proposal be confirmed, it will significantly reduce the number of developments the partnership needs to administer the levy. However, the partnership still needs to have a robust process in place and software to enable spreadsheets and/or uniform to communicate with the financial back office systems and report to government via the Delta system. So our preparation for the levy collection. The delay to the new burden funding release and confirmation of the release date for software from our data provider remains a concern. IDOCs have advised in their latest newsletter that their levy tab for uniform will not be available until the autumn, which will be too late for the 1st of October implementation for levy collection. The partnership has also been advised that uniform tab will not provide functionality to enable uniform to communicate to the government's Delta reporting system, nor be able to engage with local authorities' financial systems. As previously reported, given the delays in the funding being available and the lack of certainty around software release from IDOCs, partnership intends to design a backstop spreadsheet-based system which will enable us to process the levy requirements in the short term. However, the government have recently advised a Delta reporting system will have more than 250 data collection points for each development, and therefore undertaking this process manually will not be possible. While spreadsheets can be used to record the information, we need new software from the outset to communicate from the spreadsheets to the Delta system and to the back office systems. And once IDOCs are ready with their uniform tab, those systems will communicate with that software and also the back office system. So we've been investigating some options for some new software. Exicom presented a software package to the building control manager and technical support team leader via an online seminar in April. The package provides functionality between spreadsheets, IDOC uniform and the Delta system in the local authority back office systems. The systems can calculate plan areas, levy amounts, raise liability notices, payment certificates, and automatically populate Delta returns for the Section 151 officers to sign and return. Exicom license will cost £20,000 with an annual maintenance cost of £10,000 per quality. The rollout for the system will commence in June. Since drafting the report, building control manager and senior management team have met and agreed that once the final IT cyber security checks have been confirmed by the provider, we will procure this system or aim to procure the system via the Mid-Devon procurement service, given the Mid-Devon host partnerships IT region. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Andy. The national scene continues to change, but where I was very pleased with this report, shows a considerable improvement in terms of the wholeness of the organisation, the completeness and the stability which is now coming through. So I think it felt as though it's flying from the seat of the pants to the beginning when I came in 23, and we've all held our nerve on this. So I was really pleased to receive this report. I've got some other comments. Councillor Price, anything from you?
No, just to say, it's so disappointing. It's happening time and time again. We have new legislation from central government. You will wait for months and months, a bit like the local plan process, where we waited nearly 18 months for the details, so we can actually get going on it. And I think it's the same with the safety levy. It's a bit of a pig's ear, and it is a really demotivating thing for the building industry generally. It's on the client side. They are, well, so they're as frustrated as we are. But well, congratulations on finding a solution in the short term, even if it's going to cost us a bit of money. We're going to have to invest, aren't we? So
just to come in, obviously, the money hasn't come to us yet. So government announced the new burdens funding, but Andy had conversations with myself and Nick, and we've agreed that we'll press on and get those software solutions implemented in advance of the money coming in. So we know we'll get the money. It's just a case of when more than anything, but we can't wait for that to kickstart the software process. We need to get the systems and processes in place. I think the pleasing thing from my side is when you look at the organisation chart and the resources the team now has, it's now got a full complement of staff, whereas for a number of meetings. We've come here and obviously seen vacant posts and use of agency staff, which has been quite expensive for the financial trading accounts that you've seen. That stability hopefully is now in place moving forwards, and across both councils we've got a strong team there. Some new staff coming in, so we're investing in our own as well and growing the staff and the experience. But across the whole southwest, there's a lot of building control teams that are struggling to fill posts still. So I think a lot of credit goes to Andy and the team for changing that picture over the last 18 months, 2 years to put the partnership in a strong position. I can just come in on the financial side. Normally you get a trading account at this point for the core
Ask about that.
position, so that will come to your next meeting, but the team are still closing the accounts, but I have got some draft numbers which I can report. So obviously at the Q3 position, we reported at your last meeting the partnership was coming in slightly under budget, which was good. There was a small net surplus back to both councils. That position has improved in the last quarter as well. So the costs of employees has been lower than originally forecast. And that's mainly due to the staffing changes with the bringing in the 2 new Class 1 inspectors against the original budgeted costs. And as Andy alluded to, we've now appointed the principal surveyor on the Mid-Devon side, who was previously on an agency cost as well. So again, that's reduced the overall cost of employees in that last quarter. And the income has been around 26,000 higher than predicted in the last quarter as well. So a reduction in cost and an increase in income has turned the trading account figures at Q3 to actually contribute a slightly bigger net return to both authorities in that last quarter. So again, a really positive move from Q3 to Q4 on the trading account. You'll see the detail of that in your next meeting, but I thought it was worth just adding that to complement Andy's report for you, Chair.
Well, thank you for that. I got a sense of that, but you're probably not wanting to, because of the year end and closure, be cautious on reporting good news as much as anything. But that came really out with in the feel of the report. So I look forward to that, and that's what I was sensing in my opening remarks of saying we have come from a very, very challenging place to what appears to be comfortable, and just kind of looking at the targets within the report. The kind of the greens that I'm flagging seem to be we're performing well on the back office processes. But it's actually the front line with the appointment of the Class 1 inspectors. We're expecting to see those that are marked red on my notes turning direction and being much more positive.
I think in the medium term, yes. I think in the short term, no. It's clearly the new Class 1 inspectors will be working under supervision. So in effect, the 4 senior officers that we do have will be happy to check anything that they do before the approved, signed off. So there will still be a little period until the new Class 1 inspectors are ready to actually fulfil those restricted functions in their own rights. So we're looking at a period of about 18 months before any one of those Class 1 inspectors are likely to be qualified and registered. So I'm hoping that having additional capacity will free the senior inspectors up to be able to process things more quickly. But I don't see that being a massive improvement in the short term. I think it's more a medium term thing that we might need.
Okay, I'm happy with that realistic assessment, and in fact that's good because there's no overpromise with that. It's just a steady improvement, and a steady improvement is good.
Can you paint a picture of? I'm interested how you've been able to fill these posts and paint a picture of how their training works, and because they're obviously at different levels, and do we get any commitment from them to stay and not pass their first exam and then off to the private sector, or the other sector, I should say, not the private sector really, it's a bit, because we're almost.
So in terms of the training, it's very much an on-the-job, in-house training is sort of where we will start to build a portfolio for each one of those inspectors. So as part of their validation process to become qualified, they've got to keep a portfolio for 12 to 18 months, depending on how quickly and how much work, volume and experience they attain in that period of time. So that process starts with a period of shadowing. So each one of the senior inspectors is assigned a Class 1 inspector. So they will shadow that inspector for a period of time until we're comfortable for them to allow them to go and work under supervision. So they'll go and do inspections on their own. They'll start to do plan examination on their own. But any of those processes that they do have to be countersigned and shown to be countersigned by one of the registered inspectors. So that's sort of part one to the validation process is building up a portfolio. Part two to the validation process is that class two of our class ones have already been through the process. So the level 4 qualification for domestic inspectors through the NDC that one of our class inspectors has done, and the other one is our trainee effectively, who is on the university path. So he's at Wolverhampton University 1 day a week. Online.
But that's where I went. That's why I took all rules.
He's currently in his second year, so he's probably he's an A-level leaver. He's an A-level school leaver, so he's going to be a little bit behind the other. Whereas the other three will be anticipating they'll be out doing a job probably in a couple of months, working in supervision. And the other, say the other two that we just recently recruited, I booked on the level 4 course intake for September, and that's a 12-month course, 1 day a week with assignments and an exam at the end. So once they've completed their portfolio, sat the exam and passed it, they can then apply to the validation process, basically for stage 1. So they submit their portfolio, they show their exam result, and then effectively they will have passed phase 1 of the validation process, and then there's a further exam to accredit them. So if they finally pass that final exam, they will then be 2A qualified as a domestic inspector. So, and that's a process that they'll have to go like the rest of us. It's a 4-year cycle, so every 4 years they'll have to accredit that through an exam and submission of a portfolio. So.
And in terms, I just pick up Andy about whether there's any commitment from them.
I mean, we can't.
Are we in the same position as the building industry with apprenticeships?
We are. The LABC have managed to, and I've only just learned this week, which is why I put it in the report because it's not finalised. But the LABC have managed to secure some funding from central government. So those two level 4 courses that I was just talking about come at a cost of £2,500 a candidate to the authorities. But because they just secured this funding, we're actually going to have that money refunded to us on the basis that the 2 candidates sign a training agreement. So there is a little bit of a buy-in clause. If we can haven't actually got them to sign that agreement, they've agreed to, and they are going to. But I didn't put it in the report because it wasn't quite over the line. But yeah, I think one of the things that we have done recently with sort of the last round of recruitment, we went back to the job descriptions and we tried to create career grade positions as much as we could, so that when a trainee becomes qualified, we've got a position for them within the organisation so that they stay. Obviously, we can't compete with the private sector, in terms of sort of salaries, but we have at least got a position for them to. Whereas, quite often a trainee would have been trained and then they've had to move on because there wasn't a vacancy for them to go into. So I'm hoping that will help.
And welcome Nick Bryant, Director of Place and Economy at Mid Devon, bringing your new experience, or your experience of moving into Mid and North Devon on building control, and your extensive past experience. Is there any words of that you're wishing to add to this discussion of observation?
Well, nothing profound, I'm afraid. But no, it's I think one of the reflections having joined is I can see that, you know, that the sort of service has kind of come quite a long way, and it's great that some of those kind of key kind of gaps in personnel have been sort of filled, reducing that sort of dependency on agency workers. I mean, much like planning, much like pretty much any sort of related activity, there's clearly a kind of premium and a real sort of shortage of professionals. So it's great that we've kind of got to that position. I joined from an authority where we also had a building control partnership, and again, one where I was working for the authority that was essentially the client, if you like, as opposed to the lead on that service, albeit there were other services that we were leading on behalf of that council as well. So yeah, it's been really heartening and encouraging to see that progress. And Andy and myself and the team have been in liaison and discussion where we've needed to be around sort of more operational issues. And yeah, looking forward to continuing to work with you all, really. So no, nothing beyond that, really.
Okay, thank you. I mean, we're all in a good mood on this, aren't we? There are other things at the opposite end that I really become aware of, and to my knowledge, of the four collapsed cob buildings in Mid Devon in this last 12 months alone has brought a whole new dimension of to my world of how to deal with that.
Bring back dear old Alfie Howard at Orchard Road that used to he went off to France, didn't he, to get an agreement certificate on his cob blocks. Do you know the story of the I knew him really well. Down near, yeah. You know. Yeah, he owned a couple of cottages in Down St Mary that had, you know, they wanted to build an extension and repair them. And he had a bit of a row with the local building inspector. So, and because they wouldn't accredit his homemade cob blocks that he made, he took them off to France, got them over there. They tested them and they got the certificate, came back, and proudly presented it to the building control guy at the time. So we all learned, don't we? I mean, Tony Lay, that used to do the job here. He was involved in that the earth building project. I think they were called, weren't they? Yeah. You think I would interfere in your ward?
It was my ward as well. This seems to me, is it the weather conditions? Is it the lack of maintenance?
A combination of the two, probably. It's just we have had some very wet winters, haven't we? And some wet springs, I guess, and summers. Yeah. But, a combination of that and just poor maintenance or incorrectly maintained buildings that are causing the issue. Quite often, unfortunately, those buildings are in very prominent positions, as we well know, on public highways. So,
incompetent road builders not doing the right thing on the internal structures.
Yeah.
The use of the wrong materials, isn't it? And often with cob. The enemy to cob is cement render on the outside because it pulls the cobble apart.
Yeah. Councillor Price introduced me to snub-nosed trowels for rendering work.
Yeah, you tricked about making lime mortar. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anything else on the report?
No, just congratulations. I think it's a really good report, showing real progress.
We touched on training the class ones, obviously, because we've been out and tried to recruit previously class twos and unsuccessfully for a number of recruitment rounds, and training our own obviously hopefully means those staff remain loyal and stay with the organisation, because there is that career progression. Also, we know that local government reorganisation is pending as well, and that exposure then maybe to a bigger building control team in the future hopefully allows that progression and career grade as well. So we know that LGR is happening. We know it's likely to be sort of 2 years time. So the training of the class ones actually ties in quite nicely with that timeline as well, and puts the partnership and those individual employees in a strong position going into whatever the new unitary authority does look like.
There is one other item that I'd just like to talk about, but no, it's not on the agenda, and I'm quite happy to talk about it after the close of the meeting, and that's about Swifts and Swift bricks and where we all sit with that at the moment. So perhaps it'll be a better discussion to have after the close of the meeting, but it may be something that I'd like to kind of bring forward for a future meeting for discussion. So on that, can I thank you everybody and declare the meeting closed at 10:44.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.